There we go. Down from the street, whatever you say. Morning, Gary.
Morning, everybody.
Good
Nice
morning,
to see
Lauren.
you all.
Morning.
Morning. Okay, I'm going to just very briefly go through where I was last weekend. And I know that Ray has visited this exhibition twice, so I'm sure he'll endorse everything that I'm going to say, because there were a couple of
Absolutely.
pictures there from Ubon. And I commented, oh, I wonder if Ray has seen those. And Meg Parks told me that, yes, you'd been already twice. I can't wait to go back again. We visited it twice last weekend. So what I've brought with me from Beth, you'll probably see one behind me, it's only for means of this thing, is the display thing, so people can see. I don't know if it's coming across. Am I anywhere near it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, The Secret Art of Survival, which is, as it says, is the collection at the Victoria Gallery and Museum in Liverpool, which will be on from now until the 20th of June. It is such an amazing display. It's not just paintings, there are drawings, pictures. There's Ronald Searle's actual pencil case and the very pencils that he used, just tiny bits left of them, for the drawings that he did. There's even a sculpture that's made out of soap in the little tin box. And on the grand opening of it, with Philip, I can't remember what his last name is, Morrell, something like that, the art expert, he got out a torch and a magnifying glass and discovered a tiny signature by the artist who actually did it. So that was quite exciting just to discover that. We went for the Descendants weekend. So not only did we see the exhibition, we were also able to watch a video of a play that has been put together to commemorate the work that was done by Meg Parks' father from his diaries that he brought back. And we have to remember that all of these things were done in secret and at risk of the artists being either just punished or actually more than likely beheaded. So it's a really exciting exhibition to go to. There was also a service at the local Liverpool Parish Church, where many well-known faces from Osfepo descendants were, including Keith, who read out the Kohima epitaph, Cess Lowry, Pauline Simpson, Meg herself did a reading, and very excitingly, there was the quilt that the children had made at one of the schools not far from there. I don't know if that's in your area, Ray. Were they in your area where they did
I
this
think it's over on the
fantastic quilt?
Wirral. It's over on
Right.
the Wirral, and I'm over in Manchester. So
Okay.
it's not
So
really.
I was amazed how large the quilt is, and it was laid out on the altar at the church, and it's stunning. You know, the fact that these children have taken on board, what the FIPO internees did, and recreated it. And also, there's the dentist chair there that another school have actually reconstructed from drawings, and the drawing, an enlargement of the drawing is over the top of that to show what the children used to plan it. So I really recommend everybody to go. There's also going to be a new book produced by Meg Parks and Professor Gill and Jenny Wood. Jenny Wood, I actually got to know her at one of the conferences. We went out and had a pizza, and I kept looking at her and thinking, I know you. And went up and said, did I have pizza with you a few years ago? And Professor Eldridge as well, and my friend Jackie. We sat and discussed what was happening in the FIPO world of the IWM, where Jenny worked. And also Professor Eldridge was talking to us about the amazing plays that were put on and the artwork produced from those, which fascinated me. So my little bit on this video thing is just to recommend that everybody goes to see this. We ourselves in Birmingham, and it was lovely to see Martin and Matt actually at our last meeting in Birmingham. I'm sure both of them perhaps will say something about our meeting later on. But anyway, if you're interested in the new, sorry Ray.
I was going to add, Barbara, that at the exhibition there's a brilliant cafe where you can get meals and sit and chat. It's quite large, very
It's
good.
it's the
And
most beautiful building, isn't it, Ray? I
yes,
was
yeah, there's other
amazed.
exhibitions on as well if you're
Yeah,
interested
yeah,
in
yeah.
artwork.
There's even some of the. I'm a fan of pre-Raphaelite artists, and there were some Burne-Jones pictures on the wall as well. So I was doubly delighted.
Yeah,
And we went round and had a look. And the Birmingham Association are hoping perhaps to have a coach trip up. And I spoke to the people in their excellent restaurant. Oh, there she is. Hi, Jan.
Saying hi, Jan.
Oh, it's lovely to see you. You're not carrying any baggage with you this time, are you? You're not,
Oh
it's
no,
not loaded you up with all the baggage.
she's gone back to the kitchen.
Oh, that's even worse. Yeah. So yeah, the museum itself, museum and art gallery, is well worth a visit anyway because it's a fascinating building. And there's memorials there to those who died in the 1418 war and the 39-45 war, including a dentist who trained at Liverpool University and who was I don't know if he was actually captured, but he was actually at the Alexandra Hospital when the massacre took place. So that was interesting to hear about that. So there's lots to go and see. And as I say, we're hoping sometime next year to take our veteran, Ron Mockford, with us and go and visit this excellent, just amazing, blows you away, the quality of the work that was produced and kept in secret at the risk of death to some of these artists. Some of it was beautiful. I wanted to take some of the small pictures away and hang them on my own wall. I think to me, I would like to say that the pictures, the few that were so beautiful, didn't really show that what they were going through was hell in paradise. And that's what came across to me. I looked at them and thought, yes, it looks lovely. The pictures of butterflies and things. Yeah, stunning. But hell in paradise was what they were actually, the other side of that picture didn't show really. Anyway, I'm going to shut up, say bye-bye to you all, and set off to make sure my mum's okay. And
Okay.
catch up with you again soon. Okay, all right.
Okay,
Bye.
fine, Barbara.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye,
Barbara.
Barbara. Soon. Bye.
Right.
Right.
Sophie.
Morning. So, am I chairing this again today? So, not sure. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, I had a few things that that I'd sort of thought about since last time. In terms, because I mean, there are, I suppose 5, 6 of us on this meeting, and it always tends to be the same people that routinely and faithfully turn up. But if you look at the list of invitees, I sort of scrolled down this morning, it's like 85, 86 people, and I was thinking, why is it that people aren't dialing into this? Is it the frequency of the meetings? Is it, that that perhaps they don't have time to attend on a fortnightly basis? Is it that they're looking for a more structured content program? So I was wondering whether maybe it would be worthwhile perhaps sort of asking, surveying, all the members to see what would attract them to attending more often, because occasionally we've had new people, but then you never see them again. And I suppose it just makes me wonder, if we want to sort of keep things going and increase the attendance and stuff, what we need to do to do that. And I think probably the best way is to actually ask the people that you want to attend, rather than sort of formulating things that we think they want, but actually maybe they might not. I don't know. What does everybody think about that?
Yeah, that's a very good idea, Sophie. As I say, I'm a great advocate of trying to get the rest of the members involved, and that's why I was suggesting about them proposing some topics for us to discuss if they don't want to come on. As I say, like you say, when got to try and find a way of getting their interest. I mean, the spectrum of interest across the people is absolutely massive. We do tend to have our own areas of like what we're researching, but there's people that have stuff in there I don't really know much about other areas, and I'd love to have people say, this is I would like to talk about this topic. So, like you say, Sophie, if you wanted to do like a survey and ask the people or do our members what they would like to actually talk about, maybe like attract them that way.
You know, Ronnie
Yeah.
has asked for people to put in their suggestions, and we know that. Well, I'd say maybe 40% of the members don't have the capability, but they don't want to have the capacity to be able to come online. We have a large number watch these meetings afterwards, but they don't want to come on. That could be for
Don't want to.
maybe
Yeah.
two or two policies sorted out in their computers, or they've got a house full of children, or whatever. There's millions of reasons. Something has asked that people do suggest, and again, yes, there's probably 8 or 12 of us that regularly come on, and I think we all have little areas of expertise. I mean, Ray's got his, Martin's got his, and Bernard, well, Bernard is the area of expertise. He sits there and monitors us all, and everybody else. But morning, Bernard, sorry, and it's Kevin when he joined. But I don't know how to say this, but we tend to, we don't have any fresh input, and that I think is why we're beginning.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
That puts people off. So yes, I agree. And it'd be helpful, I suppose, if we could get a structure and say, right, on the next meeting, we'll be discussing, I don't know, the Sumatra, or we're going to be discussing why Rangoon is called Malay by the Japanese, but there's other Malays which are also Changi. We can segregate it. I mean, like Kevin did. First, I couldn't that week, but he did a fascinating one on Sumatra. His little bit, and Bernard's also done his bit, and Martin's done his bit, and Jess a couple of months ago did a little thing on his bit, and Barbara, of course, has done hers. So yes, and of course, Sophie, you've done yours on the repatriation ships, which is fascinating. I'm still working on that for a lot of people. So yeah, I think we have to, as a census rule, perhaps say to Ronnie, this is what we're going to do. So I suppose we need to decide what we're going to talk about. Not next week or next month. Next month, let's have a monthly topic rather than an every 2-week topic. So you can have a general video monthly. Because next month we're going to talk about the dentist chair, how it came about, where it was, and who actually built the original, and why these children did we need to find out. And
what about? Sorry, Ronnie, just to butt in, just an idea has come into my head. Is why don't we do a broadcast from the exhibition in Liverpool? Somebody could go there.
That's a good idea.
And
that's a great idea.
If we've got we have the technology. I'm pretty certain the internet is available in there. We could have somebody with an iPad or an iPhone going around, and we'd have to get permission off Meg, of course, but why not?
I'm going next year when my sister comes over from America, and it's my mum's 90th birthday. I'm going up to Liverpool and going to take my sister and my brother-in-law. My mum's not interested, but take them to see the exhibition. My sister wants to see it. But I'm also thinking about going up with Barbara and the Birmingham Peep House with Ron, their actual oldest Peep House. I think they're talking about doing it in April. Can you remember, Martin, when it was mentioned it's me in Birmingham, what they said about it? They were going
Yeah, I'm not sure
or
of the actual
February.
dates. No.
Uh, I mean,
Yeah, well, that's one thing, isn't it? So,
you can sort out some. Yeah, that'd be a good idea, Ray.
Yeah,
I've done.
Mm.
a
I've
broadcast from
done
there will give accessibility to the people who can't travel. I mean,
yeah,
I've had a few messages on Facebook for people that are disabled. The distance is too far, the cost of getting there, etc. It would be nice for the group just to, walk around with an iPad and show the exhibits, and maybe if we could get Meg to be there, she could talk about a few things as well.
pretty
Ease the
good. I
hassle
mean,
of
yeah,
everybody with that.
Yeah.
And
I was
and then,
yeah,
on the back of that idea, we could perhaps do something similar at other locations.
well, this is Keith that we
mm,
did the Copper Power building, the National Arboretum, because a lot of people have heard about it, but a lot of people have not been able to go to the Arboretum
yeah,
and see. They can't see the plinth of the Burma Star Association or the Chintz or the Top Power building or even the different gardens of remembrance like for the Royal Artillery and the infantry and the RAF and all that. So if we perhaps do one from there, and I did ask Keith to mention it to the Copper people and see if they'd allow us to do that in the building. The Royal National Arboretum wouldn't object, I think, but it's a lot to do in one day, so in one meeting, so we'd have to sort of split it up into different chunks. You can do it in one day, but perhaps do, um, split it up a little bit. Better what's in the future. I've had the pleasure of meeting Antipia, dear gentleman, and his wife not so long ago. Can't remember his name, no one important. Um, Martin Fryer, who's been over in the UK, upsetting people and trying to prize
Setting
out the
people off.
memory. No, not upsetting people. You know what I mean? It's been people getting people to share their memories a little bit. I think he's working on another book, but no, they had a holiday. He and his lovely wife Jan, and it's a pleasure to meet you both.
Yes, and
Birmingham
you guys too. Yeah.
and Keith
It-
there, Ron, but yeah. So Martin, that's an awful how he actually gets time to do this because he does an awful lot of work. He's part time when he's not working to earn a living.
Yes,
Amazing.
it's a lot of work. It's definitely a lot of work. I mean, I think all research, I think from everyone's point of view, takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, especially when you're trying to absorb information from archives and online platforms and so forth. So yeah, it burns up an awful lot of time. But coming over to the UK is also fantastic because this trip especially because we had a great opportunity to actually meet a lot of people that we've been talking with and associating with over the last few years or so. So it was terrific to meet up with Matt and Keith and Barbara and at the Birmingham meeting, which I think's a fantastic forum because I didn't realise how many people actually got involved, and it was done in a great, relaxed environment, and people can sit and talk and share ideas and share research and share what they're up to, what they've been doing, what they're planning, etc. And I think that in itself was probably similar in what we tried to do online here, where we have sort of like an open meeting, open discussion, and I understand Sophie's point of view that we probably need to work on something more structured around, what our topics will be, to try and bring a bit more inclusion from other people. So it might be worthwhile actually canvassing the other members in the charity side of it as to what they want to gain from it, what their expectation is, or what And I understand the point Matt makes that not everyone either has the capability or is able to participate. Some people find this type of media a bit daunting. So I think it's worthwhile actually sort of going to that next stage and start to understand what it is people want to either what part they want to be involved with or what they want to get from it, which obviously gives us a bit more of a platform to work from and a bit more of an understanding.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, that's a good point. So I was introduced via one of our members, a lady called Elizabeth Hallett, who's joined fairly recently, actually. She's a member of COFIPO, etc. And her dad came from Shrewsbury, as did my dad. So she I think off the back of one of my first posts on one of the Facebook sites, she contacted me. She put me in touch with a guy called Paul Murray, who actually lives just 5-10 minutes down the road from me. And usually, so I met up with him a few months back. We just went for a coffee, and I took along some of the information I had at the time, which wasn't a huge amount. And he shared with me his dad's story, and his dad was held in Japan. So and he does quite a few presentations and things, and he's quite happy with that. He's not a member of our group as such, but I did ask him recently. I said, if there was an opportunity to do a bit of an online presentation about that, so I think that's something that was mentioned last time. I said, would you consider doing that? And he said, yeah. He just said, yeah, that's absolutely fine. More than happy to. He's quite happy to present online on that, and it's something a bit different. And I think Barbara mentioned last time, different areas that maybe we haven't talked about so much. So if we want to sort of think about maybe when we'd like him to do that, or a number of dates that I could give him, and we can just bring him in via invite or something to that, because I think that would be. He's very knowledgeable. I think he's done. Other people have said to me they've been to sort of meetings that he's organised, sort of face-to-face sort of presentations and stuff. So I think it'd be. He's a very knowledgeable guy. He's got a lot to offer. I was trying to persuade him to join up. I haven't quite got that far yet. But yeah, I think it'd be good. And he's somebody new, maybe, and I don't know whether anybody else knows him, but I didn't know him before. But it's just a new face. There's no harm with that, I think. So I shall stop now and let somebody else speak.
Sophie, if you put something on Facebook, put this is what we're thinking about doing. Have you got any suggestions?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you want if you want to contribute, or do you want to talk about it? And we could also use the Facebook as the vehicle to structure the meetings. They could put the ideas into the Facebook, and then we could say, right, this is what we're going to do. At that next meeting, we'll cover that topic. Or if you want to cover it, of course, to the person who wants to do it.
I think
we need more communication, I think, through Facebook. Can you do surveys through Facebook? I think you can.
Yeah.
It might be worthwhile somebody to pick that up and coming up with a few questions to put to the group, and they can respond through Facebook.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I'm not very good with Facebook, so but somebody might know how to do that. I don't know. So,
and I think
because
communication about the meetings is very poor as well, to be honest. You know, we need to get that out
enough
more.
advance notice
I mean,
as
I'll
well.
be perfectly honest with you, chaps. I've been preoccupied with some other personal matters recently, and I was only reminded, of the meeting today through Matt's early morning posting on Facebook to say he couldn't take his sleeping pills because there was a meeting this morning, and I thought, oh yeah, meeting, yeah. You know, so
Actually, I saw that too and thought, oh, I forgot. Yeah,
the
so
fact that
I'm
I was
forgetting.
awake at 5 o'clock in the morning as well
Yeah.
doesn't excuse that, but you know, it just demonstrates the fact that it can easily slip out of your mind when the meeting is scheduled for. So I think some form of communication other than an email that's sent about 10 days before the meeting.
I think perhaps we'll tell it, because these meetings are every 2 weeks or such. Maybe we are restricted. Not every 2 weeks, and not everybody can do 2 weeks, but and 2 weeks isn't, some people not enough notice, but we should say one meeting per month should be displayed on, on Sunday, the whatever, say 30th of November. There'll be the monthly video meeting of PayPal, charity, and Pay. And people, if you want to join, you can do. You're very welcome to come along. Or if you like to discuss something, but it will be held on this day, on this month, or say the last Sunday of every month. We'll have a PayPal meeting, or last Saturday, or whatever. Or even the first Sunday. Doesn't matter, but we need to sort out something like that. So every month, people know. We can put every week or every day. We can even just remember, in 28 days a meeting or whatever. But then people have got. It's these are all very well, but they're only they tend to be a bit limiting. So I think if we definitely put
it's 10:30.
It certainly is. I don't know where that voice came from.
Sorry, it's my computer.
Yeah, so what do you think? If we do it like a monthly just open meeting that everybody knows about, they can either suggest something for that meeting to discuss, giving us at least a month's notice, or they can join and they know that on that day there's going to be, say, 11 o'clock rather than 10, there's going to be a meeting and they can join it. I don't know, that's my idea anyway.
Yeah, and I think perhaps a note going out to say, do you have a question? So,
Yeah.
it might not be a topic, but it could be a question. I mean, I was asked a question this week, and I must admit I didn't know what the answer was. So I want to throw that question to you and perhaps open up a discussion on it. And that was, we know that towards the end of the war, the Japanese were getting very twitchy about what they might do to the prisoners, and they told the prisoners to dig ditches and holes in the ground, which they'd given any other reason, but we do know that the guys were asked to dig their own graves, and the possibility of execution if the Allies invaded or did something. But in actual fact, the Japanese didn't take that order out, and I just wondered what stopped them from doing that. Does anybody know?
There's lots of different reasons given.
There was an order went out to say at the given command, then all prisoners of war should be executed, but it was never carried out. So what was the order coming to them that stopped them from doing that?
Well, it's probably because of the surrendered unconditionally maybe that got passed through, saying, look, we've surrendered unconditionally, don't do anything that could jeopardize that. Maybe that got passed through. Because I know from the case of my father who was in Sumatra, there was no official Allied landing in Sumatra. There were just a few people went in there to go around the camps to find out who was there and what was that. And they organised the evacuation. There wasn't actually an Allied army went in there to liberate them. So there wasn't a provocation for the Japanese to carry out what they were, like you say, what they would have intended to do.
Also, I think a lot of it was because war crimes have been, the Allies have said, we're doing war crimes because we're going to do war crimes trials in Germany. We're organising those, and they will also be done in Japan. So if you've done something wrong, we will find you and prosecute you. And that was widely known, distributed in propaganda by the Allies. I think a lot of Japanese may have had the order and gone, I can't do it. If I do it, we're going to be obviously losing, and I'm going to get, so I think it was the difference between individual persecution and torture, which the Japanese are very good at, and mass. I think they're, I don't know, there was something against mass killing that they didn't like. The Chinese are different because the Japanese considered Chinese worse than animals. But Western prisoners, they were a bit more, maybe we shouldn't do this. I don't know. I don't know the answer. It'd be interesting to find out if there's perhaps a subculture that sent a different order out. There was a lot of power struggle in the Japanese army at the time. And you got the very militant ones who wanted to continue the war, even though they had the atomic explosions, and didn't want to surrender. And you got the others who did want to surrender, and that they were trying to get surrender before the atomic bombs, where they'd sent a separate order out. I have no idea. Perhaps I'll know, but it was nice to find out.
I think to a large extent, from some of the reading I've done through some of the war crimes files, at the end of the war, for a lot of Japanese, it became every man for himself, and a lot of guys were disappearing. A lot of guys were actually getting out of there and getting back to Japan because there was a lot of war crimes where Americans, Australians, British, etc., had to track down some of these Japanese suspects who had actually fled Thailand, Manila, and Singapore, wherever, and making their way back and were found back in Japan. So I think there was a lot of, every man for himself towards the end of the war. Those orders obviously are known and distributed, but how far did they get distributed? Did everyone get those orders? But we know there were cases where trenches were being dug and etc. But then on what scale that communication was actually distributed, that's all the unknown stuff, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of miscommunication in the Japanese army towards the end because they hadn't got the capability to get their orders all over. And you're right, a lot of Japanese did just. I mean, there's untold stories of prisoners suddenly finding where's all the guards gone? What are we going to do next? And we better not do anything. It might be a trap. And it's like spent 2 days and there are no guards. They're gone. And it is one where I think it was in Manila, where the Japanese officer in charge of the camp, came out to expect his morning's, parade or whatever, and found out overnight, and apparently most of his guards were Korean, they'd all just buggered off, and he's there. And unfortunately, the prisoners took advantage of that and killed him, but he probably got what he deserved, but that's not for anybody to say. But yeah, it's an unusual situation, I suppose. I don't know the answer. I hope someone does. But
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. So maybe going back to the point, then maybe some sort of one-off question like that opens up a debate would be an item for the agenda. A bit of structure to the meeting, for everybody to put forward their views and whatever.
Everybody out there who's a member or not a member actually know the reason why the final orders to shoot all the prisoners or execute all the prisoners before the Allies invaded were never carried out. Maybe someone somewhere's got the answer and just go, no one's ever asked me before. If he asks.
Well, that's probably a little question there that we can all take away and sort of do our own little bit of legwork over the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Homework.
Homework.
Homework? Oh no! Help! No. I have enough trouble doing Liam's homework, so I don't need some more homework.
Well, just to
But it's one of those questions and topics that you just might stumble over something when you're reading a file or looking up something and go, oh, hang on, this relates back to that question that came up in the meeting that day.
Yeah, it's true. I'm going to get Bernard to speak because he's sat there like Buddha. And
his microphone's not on.
Oh, that's what it is. Your microphone's not on, Bernard. Can you turn your microphone on? Can you hear him, Sophie?
No, but Bernard, I think you're on mute. Are you on mute?
Yeah,
it's coming up on my screen. It's on mute. So
maybe you can give us a wave if you can hear us.
And click the. Can you hear me, Bernard? Yeah, you're waving. Yeah. Should be up at the top of the screen. The red. There we go.
Yeah. Well.
Morning, Bernard.
Morning. It's afternoon now.
I thought, yeah. Afternoon. So.
The mouth moving, and nothing was coming out. And again,
I didn't realise it was on mute. I was enjoying watching it and listening to you.
Morning, Bernard.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. No, it's not. It's still morning. Shut up. How are you?
All right.
You're looking very well.
Oh, I had a little mishap last night. I went and took my wrong insulin, and I took too much. I had to try and stay awake most of the night, not to fall in a coma.
Oh dear.
Oh, I know that. No, I know staying awake every night. I mean, I know since my strokes I talk very bad, but when I'm averaging about an hour's sleep a day if I'm lucky. The trouble is, I keep dozing off, and it's like 20-minute dozing. But there you go. Anyway, please have you with us now. I think you're on mute or laryngitis or something. Kevin? No, he's gone quiet as well. Kevin?
Yeah.
No? Oh, you're there. Well, he goes off to do my trick.
Yeah.
I think we all need to think about this, Seth, Kevin, Martin, and not this next month with Christmas and people don't have time and blah, blah, blah. But we should start the new year with a subject, and maybe that subject should be why didn't the Japanese commanders carry out the order to not execute the prisoners. That gives us, say, 2 months, well, months maybe, 2 months to find out. So we probably may never find the answer, but it'd be interesting to look it up and have a go. And
well, that's a good idea, but also maybe maybe if there was a post on the Facebook page,
Yeah, well,
so just posing that question that the meeting has come up with this question, and we might get some feedback coming in from external as well. Might arouse some interest and.
that's what I mean. If we do, we've got nearly the end of November now. Christmas is everybody's going to be busy. I'm not, but that's beside the point. Sophie's probably going to be busy. I think Martin's going to be busy, but well, John says you are. And so if we put a post up and said at the monthly video meeting, FEPAL, and we can decide the date in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks with Ronnie and whatever on, I don't know, what's February stage, January stage. So last Sunday in January, we will be discussing that particular problem, that particular question. Post it and just post it and remind you that they don't. To be honest, that people can come on FEPAL site. They don't have to be FEPAL members on charity site. Post the question, which we can then post an answer. Well, the reason why I didn't do it is because somebody, Sugimoto, or whatever his name was, has said, don't do it. We don't know. Maybe someone knows.
I'm sorry, I'll have to take my absence now. Something's just cropped up. Just to let you know, I was in the process of moving house and was hoping to move next Friday, but on Wednesday the whole thing collapsed. So very frustrating, very annoying, and very expensive. And I've just got to go now because something's cropped up I've got to deal with. So I'll take my absence and I'll see you next time.
Okay. Right. Okay.
Bye now.
Thanks, Ray. Good day. Bye. Bye.
Yes, that's these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, during the runner.
Yeah. So.
Bernard's good.
I don't know whether. I don't know whether on these meetings. Yeah, there is a. I just looking at the when you sort of look at the top bar there is actually a chat function as well. And sometimes, at sort of work meetings and stuff, there are those who will always say something. You can guarantee that they'll always come up with their question. But there are those who like to maybe attend, but they would like to attend maybe more passively. So with the insurance that they probably wouldn't need to say something. So they could either be on it or they could, even just be watching it later. But they'd have a facility to sort of almost like add their question. And I've been on plenty of meetings like that where people will happily type in their question. It seems to be more the way of the world these days. And they're desperate to know the answer, but they don't want to necessarily ask it. So it'd almost be sort of like they have on sort of like programs like Question Time here, where people will submit their questions and then we can answer it for them.
Yeah.
So yeah,
or attempt
that
to,
kind of
yes.
thing. Yeah. Attempt to answer it. Yeah. I mean, pre-submission of the questions is probably better because then you're more prepared.
Yeah, definitely.
But maybe sometimes a question and a discussion around that question can then generate another question, perhaps. And then it becomes more of an interactive discussion, and it just sort of runs itself then, kind of thing.
There is a lot of known unknowns that people are taking for granted, or just I know about that. What do you know about it? Well, I've heard about it or whatever. So it can, and things like why didn't they execute the prisoners like they were ordered? That's a good question. Other question is where did they? Several questions like some of the jurors like Ronald Searle and and the people were done with coloured pencils or paints. Where do they get the colours from? Where do they get the pencils from? Where do they get the paints from? Or the pens? I mean, yes, you can understand when they first went into captivity, they might have had lots of pens and pencils and colourings, but, after a couple of years, where did they get all the paints and things from? What did they use to grind up or dry to get? They're very ingenuitive. I know I can't remember his name now, but one he said by the time the war had finished, and he kept a diary. He was a medical orderly, and he kept a diary all through the war, from Singapore right through to being liberated in 1945. He kept he kept little bits of pencil and diaries, and he used to bury them every day, and they had to get everything had to be approved by the Japanese. So if he kept a diary or wrote a book, it had to be approved by the Japanese. So he wrote a book, or he wrote plays or something, and they were approved by the Japanese. That way, if you get the paper, which he then used to tear off strips of the paper that he used to write his plays on, and write his diary and bury those in the ground with these little bits of pencil. But it also meant that he could apply for pencils and ink to the Japanese to write his plays. Now, obviously, not every prisoner could do that. So it was like maybe one or two per camp. So it'd be interesting questions. Where did they get them all from?
Well, my understanding for some of them is that, like for example, with Philip Meninsky, he was working as an orderly in Tarseo Hospital and at Chiang Kai, and he was being issued with drawing inks and charcoals and etc., because he was sketching for like sketching ulcers and sketching stages of recovery, so forth for the hospital. So the hospitals were getting away with it, and there were also instances where some of the Japanese officers were commissioning some of these artists to do private sketches of them, so they could send them home to their families and so forth back in Japan. So they were also supplying some of these materials. So I think there's many reasons how these guys actually obtain them, and especially towards the end of the war, with the war crimes tribunals coming along, they were a lot of the artists then were asked to do a lot of sketches for the war crimes trials, because obviously there's no photographs. So yeah, there's a lot of material available.
Yeah,
Yeah, there was a question that I would like to have asked about. That was there must have been some sort of communication between, like, for administration between the different camps, because they seem to have accumulated a lot of information during that time as prisoners. So that'd be really interesting. How did one camp communicate with another one on like an administration level?
Well, as far as I've been able to understand, a lot of that information was transferred by orderlies. So if you had sick, say up country, say in Thailand, and they were going back to a base camp, they would be transported down with medical orderlies, who then would pick up information and come back up with other recovered POWs who were coming back up. So a lot of that information was getting transferred camp to camp and up and down country by these medical orderlies, who were just basically feeding like that lifeline of information up and down the line.
But was it like an official channel, or was it actually just like an underground channel, if you like?
Well, it was definitely, passed between the camps through unofficial channels, without a doubt, absolutely. And as we know, there were secret radios out there even some of the remote camps had secret radios, so they were getting a lot of outside information. But then, of course, the problem with that is they didn't make that widely known, because if the rumor mill got around the camp, because by this time, 1943 onwards, a lot of the Japanese and Korean guards were getting a good command of English and were learning, some key words and so forth. So they had to be very careful that they weren't talking about current affairs and what stage the war was at in Europe or elsewhere, because then the Japanese would soon know that there was a radio in the camp.
Yeah.
Because how else would they be getting this information? I've also read that copies of the Bangkok Chronicle were getting through. So obviously
Yes.
they were getting into the camps, the base camps, Kanchanaburi and so forth, and they were actually getting up the line as well. So yeah, I think there was an absolute network of information and intelligence run by the POW administration, which was feeding this information through.
There
Yeah, it
was a lot
goes back
of
to what was Barbara was talking about the yacht. I've got an example. This was supposed to be drawn. I'll just. I don't know if you can see that on the screen.
yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's a prisoner of war camp before there was in, and that's absolutely fantastically drawn. It's got the scale on the bottom.
Yeah, good
And
detail.
so,
Yeah.
so for somebody to do that, like surreptitiously, if you like, they must have walked around and measured that out. It's amazing how they did that when it got away with it.
Well, a lot of SOE operations. I didn't even know SOE had operated behind the lines in India and Burma and Sumatra and different places, but it did. And they did send teams in specifically to locate POW camps and try and find out how many of the people were there, where, exactly the dimensions. And a lot of natives supplied information and everything. So there was a ground current of information trafficking and also of drawings and photographs, which I was fascinated by. I've got a list of it's a whole file of SOE operations in the in the SEAC area. People that are involved. They were mainly local guerrillas or local people commanded by an American or Australian or New Zealand or a British Army officer, and did fantastic work behind the lines. So yeah, there was all that going on. Again, so it's all interesting stuff. Anything else? We're down to 5 of us now. So Martin, you're the furthest away. So have you got anything you'd like to tell us?
Well, only just I guess what we've discussed today. I think the topics and ideas put forward were very constructive, and I think that this forum we've got today needs to probably work more towards getting more interest and people more involvement from other members. And I think having like a topic question put out to the wider group for discussion and for people then to maybe have a little bit of a work on and source a little bit more information and then bring it back to a meeting and then have a discussion around it. I think that's a great idea.
Yes, we'll. I mean, I think that's the way we should go, Sophie. We would have, say, on the last Sunday or the last Saturday of every month. You can still do the 2 weekly, but general. But on the last Saturday or Sunday of every month, we should have a open house for anybody to join. But it gives them a month then to pose their questions or ask their questions or give us a topic that they'd like to discuss. And we can choose them. We can say, okay, well, Fred Blogs, you want to know about this. We're going to discuss that in January, or we're going to discuss that in February. So it gives us a bit of time to find the answers, if we can find them, and so gives a lot more notice to people. That's what we're going to do, and that's what we're just talking about.
Yeah, I think that's yeah.
I think that's
I think it's the right way to go to
too
to
easily
secure. Yeah, that.
notice some people. I mean, people who can't do this may like to just say to their friend who does it, "Can you ask that? Can you get them to ask that?" I don't know. And he gives us time to get the answer. And it gives Bernard time to turn his microphone on. Sorry. Anyway, on that note, I think we'll give Bernard the last say of the day and call it a draw, if you like. Because I've got to go off
Well, we're
soon.
coming up. Yeah, we're coming up to the hour, and
Yes.
we do usually go over, so it'd be good to keep
And
it
it's
more
dinner time.
timely, I guess. Yeah, so for people to go, people have got things to do as well. But yeah, so I think today's been really useful. So
Well, we've got to Bernard for the closing argument of the day, and wise words of wisdom from the man in Wales himself. He's gone Buddha again. You're actually there, Bernard, or you just put a picture of yourself up?
he's still there, but it seems to have frozen. The screen seems to have frozen.
Move on.
Oh no, there we go.
No,
Bernard, have you got
Sophie,
closing comments?
I'm sorry. I may look as if I'm a bit vacant, but I'm on my own, and I've got my son who's got MS here, and I'm watching over my son as well. You see, and he's in a wheelchair, and he does things that he shouldn't do, and I got to have one eye on you, and I'm one eye on him. So I must apologise if I look a bit vague.
So no, there's no need to apologise at all. So,
Well, okay, I'll stop recording now. Thank you very much for being here, and Sophie for chairing it, and Martin for all the thousands of miles that he's transmitting from. It's amazing, really. In 70 years, I mean, if they had this technology in the war, God knows what it would have been like. It's been awful. But anyway, thank you, Martin. It's a pleasure meeting you and your wife.
And you too.
Looking forward to seeing you again.
Martin, just before you go, did Barbara mention to you that I was on a sort of bit of a mission to try and track down some potential lost Australian relatives? Did she?
Yes, she did. Yes. Yes. So, do you want to email me some details?
Yeah, I'll email you some details because I did email them to Barbara, but I just
yeah, she mentioned it when I met her.
Curious,
so,
and
if you can get me some details, then.
So
yeah,
sure.
sure.
That'd be brilliant. Yeah, because I'm kind of aware that the my own sort of endeavours, a lot of the more recent records seem to be just totally on lockdown for
right.
Whereas in the UK, you'd quite readily find them.